Pa dobro veče.
Samo
Samo sekundu. Ja, zabagovalo nešto i dalje sam čuo ovu muziku.
Vratio sam ovaj uvodni džingl.
Nešto se pokvarilo vama. Dobro, ok. Mislim da je sad dobro. Pa dobro veče svima. Ne znamo ćemo li da sačekamo još malo. Imamo trenutno 7 ljudi. Možemo da sačekamo par minuta još. Pa da
Može
krenemo.
sačekat ćemo da nam se pridruži još kolega i kolegica.
Da.
Ove streaming platforme su uvijek zanimljive.
Da.
Volio bi se malo poigrati sa stream.com i svim onim što koriste pod navodnicima pravi streameri za Twitch.
Da, definitivno. Ovaj StreamYard je vrlo interesantna stvar. Meni ga je Darko otkrio, nisam znao za to uopšte, nego sam se mučio sa onim OBS-om koji mi je jeo CPU i čuda radio, krekirao i svašta po nešto, tako da sam ga izbacio kompletno i zamijenio ga s ovim. Ovo je mnogo bolja stvar.
Mi smo prošle godine kad smo radili onaj AWS Community Day, nažalost Virtual Edition, trebali smo koristiti neke od ovih streaming alata i tad sam se s tim igrao i pokušao sam podati na OBS Studio, slično kao što je to predložio Alex Casalboni u onom svom blog postu. Taj blog post je čak bio i na AWS-ovih stranicama. Međutim, nikad mi to nije radilo baš.
Dobro. Dobro, ok. Vidi, ovo je odlična stvar, ovo ja ne bi mijenjao. Jest da piše powered by StreamYard, a to ako hoćeš da zamijeniš, to će te koštati $20 mjesečno. Ako ti ne smeta ovako da piše powered by StreamYard, bit će ti džabe. Tako da...
Pa meni je ova patkica u ćošku skroz cool.
Ma, skroz je ok, ne bi je mijenjao, tako da...
Mada, ne bi ih mijenjao za $20 mjesečno.
Tačno tako, ne bi je mijenjao za $20. Super je.
Jel imamo neki chat ovdje dostupan?
Imamo chat, znači za one koji su došli, chat je na YouTube, znači tu pišite slobodno pitanja, mi ćemo ih pročitati, ubaciti na stream, tako da svi vide, evo na primjer ovako. I onda fino, lijepo može da se vidi pitanje i da odgovaramo na to pitanje.
Super. To je to.
Dobro. Koliko smo prebacili? 35. Pa dobro, mogli bi da krenemo polako. Ko nije došao još doći će. Imamo 7 trenutno gledatelja. Dobro, ok. Pa evo još jednom dobro veče. Ovo nam je 9. Meetup. Nije bilo dugo Meetupa, moram da priznam, ali šta da se radi, mislim, bilo ljeto, mijenjao sam posao, učio Terraform, šta da kažem, tako da nisam stigao nažalost da pravim neki Meetup prije. A i speakera nije baš lako naći. Dobro, just one thing. If there is somebody who is speaking English, we can switch to English. In case there is no, we will continue in our language. So I'm giving a minute if somebody to shout English. Otherwise, we are continuing in our language. Anyway, even during the session, if somebody says English, then we'll switch. Jan, you don't mind, right?
No, it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Samo viči, yes.
To. Ok, ništa, ajde da English. Okay, so English. Okay, let's start. So, first of all, I would like to say thank you to our guest Jenan for being with us tonight. So, how are you? How are you, Jenan?
I'm doing all right, thank you.
Yeah,
Long time no see on
yeah,
AWS Meetup, so I'm
true.
quite excited because of this event tonight. Didn't have opportunity to speak for I think 1 year since this COVID thing started. All the communities, first in the beginning, we had so many online events, and after some time, the number of events goes quite low. So I hope that soon we will start again with on-site events and on-site meetups. In the meantime, I'm quite happy and excited to be here tonight. So thank you for your invitation, Marie, and I hope that we will have successful meetup tonight.
It is always pleasure to have you on our meetups.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, you said, yeah, when you organized community day, you planned originally to have a community day to be in person, but unfortunately, due to COVID, you had to make it online. I guess
Yes.
that was a big switch, organizing everything to be in online instead of in person, and abandoning everything that you did to be in person, and setting everything up to be online. It's yeah, difficult.
Well, it was quite challenging. We started thinking about organizing AWS Community Day in 2019, I think, in Bulgaria, on AWS Community Day Sofia. I
Right.
got the idea, we should have something similar in Bosnia for whole Balkan AWS
Yeah.
community. And then on Adriatic AWS days in Opatija, Croatia, later
Hmm.
in 2019, I spoke with Mark Schwartz, Darko Mesaros,
Hmm.
and some other people from AWS and from AWS community, and they supported the idea, and then we started working on it. And our initial idea was to have AWS Community Day in April, hosted in Sarajevo, on
Hmm.
site, free conference for 300 people with two tracks. Well, I mean, we just take a template from some other AWS community days all around the
Right.
world, and we wanted to make same in Sarajevo.
Yeah.
And we were quite excited because that that should be like a first on-site AWS conference in Bosnia and the first AWS Community Day on Balkans if we
Right.
accept Bulgaria. And when we everything figured out, then COVID thing started. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, I was thinking, oh well, it's in China, it doesn't touch us, we can proceed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
True. True. Everybody thought so.
and I was like, in March, I was, well, we will proceed by plan. Nothing changed for us. And then in like 10 or 20 days, first Italy happens, and then we got first cases in Bosnia, and then we only the only thing which we can do was to postpone. First, we postpone event for summer, thinking that everything will be finished soon, and that, well, I suppose we were thinking that COVID will magically disappear, and then during the summer we find out, well, COVID will stay with us for some time, and then we
And it
move to
still
virtual
is.
event.
And it still
Yeah,
is. Still didn't die.
well, at least we find out how to live with it. But
Yeah. True.
at that time, it was, for me, it was like hard to accept that we have to
Absolutely.
move from the on-site to virtual event. But
Yeah.
I was quite satisfied when everything was done, how it went. We had
Yeah.
in one moment in time like 500 real-time viewers. It, it was quite challenging to organize everything.
Mm.
I owe a lot of gratitude to Janana and to all AWS marketing team from Luxembourg, also to Darko. He supported us, and yeah.
Yeah,
But it is how it is.
it was amazing. It was amazing how it was organized, especially in that amount of time that you had. I was really amazed. Not that I was a speaker there, but it was really it was really cool. Um, um, yeah. So tell me one thing: are you going to reinvent?
Yes, finally.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. You know that there will be quite few restrictions when you go over there, but you know what? Yeah, I mean it's Vegas, so
Well, just got an email last evening where with the inputs. So everyone will need to have a proof of vaccination. I'm
Mhm.
vaccinated, so not an issue for me. And also, everyone will need to wear masks except when they are eating and drinking.
Yeah,
And from what I heard, I mean, 2019 they had more than 50,000 attendees. You were at Raymond that year. This
yeah,
year, I'm not sure about the exact number, but it will be interesting to see how many people will be there.
yeah.
And for me
So it will be more
personally,
like a community day.
yeah,
I'm
for
sure.
me personally, it's, I mean, long time dream. I was thinking about the event since 2014, 2015, and didn't got the opportunity to go there before. Janana was there
Yeah,
2019.
yeah.
I
I
had
think
some,
yeah, the 2019 I met Janana. Basically, that's when we discussed about having AWS community in Montenegro, and basically that's how it started actually.
yes,
2019.
I was thinking, okay, I can go next year. I don't. I had some stuff at work to make done, and I was thinking, okay, I will go next year. And then again, COVID happens. So
Yeah, true, true, true. Okay, cool, cool. Listen, here is the thing. This is how I think we should go with this meetup. Basically, I have a set of questions, and I'm gonna ask you, and you're gonna answer me. I'm
yeah,
kidding. It's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be more like a discussion. So yeah, I mean both of us we are gonna discuss about those questions. We of course accept any questions that will come from the chat. You can, the best place to write the question will be a YouTube channel, so please do put the question there, and that will be around. But before we start going into the questions, do you mind saying a few words about you? You know, like what do you do, who are you, and I mean, there are people probably that didn't met probably me as well and you as well. So yeah,
yeah,
why
no
not
problem.
have short introduction?
Hello, everyone. My name is Janan Javlan. I'm from Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Working with AWS since 2010, 2011, I think. I have several AWS certificates. Also, I'm AWS community hero, trying to spread the knowledge about AWS across AWS community, especially in Balkan region. Uh, be- Beside that, day to day, I work as part of the production engineering team at Yahoo. Most of my tasks on day-to-day work are related to AWS, so I'm quite involved into everything what's around AWS, DevOps culture, etc., etc. You can find me on social networks, especially Twitter and LinkedIn. On Twitter, my handle is SQL Heisenberg. So if you have any kind of the questions which you think that I can help you with, please feel free to ping me.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me introduce myself, as some of the people probably don't know me either. So basically, I'm working with AWS from 2016. Currently, I'm working at Crayon as a cloud architect. Uh, I have experience for quite some time in cloud formation, and from recently I start working with Terraform. So this is new to me, and we are going to discuss about that in the session. But what I love the most is basically doing things with serverless. So serverless architecture is my passion. I'm also 5 times certificated, right? Certificated, and my certificates are expiring soon. So yeah, that's one thing on me to start learning that things as soon as possible, because lots of things I forgot in those 3 years. Okay, cool. So let's start with the questions. I'm gonna post them on the yeah, well, where it says please shout English, it's gonna be question there. So here is the first question. So what is infrastructure as a code, and why do we care?
May I please?
Please.
Oh, so infrastructure as a code is a way how to. Oh, I'm not sure that I know this answer to this question.
It's a bit hard, isn't it?
You promise that questions will be easy. So, uh,
Well,
infrastructure as a code is a method to manage your infrastructure in AWS cloud or any other cloud provider on a way similar like you do with your with any other application or any other code. So the main goal there is, instead of the clicking around AWS console or GCP console or Microsoft Azure, instead of the clicking around, setting things manually, you should put everything what you need inside the templates. You have different ways to write them. You can use YAML, JSON formats, and then once when you write that down, you should put your infrastructure written as a code inside some versioning system, preferably Git, and then you have an option there to manage your infrastructure same as you do with application code. You can have pull requests, you can review pull requests. That will give you a flexibility to check changes, to control what is changed on your infrastructure, and once when the changes are approved, you can deploy them inside your accounts environments. First on dev, preferably on dev environment, and then you can proceed to production.
So basically, what we can take from this, back then you had really to physically provision machines in order to run your application. Then there are like data centers where you can rent out machines, and you can put your application there so somebody will manage that for you. You don't need to manage. And then we came to the moment where we had virtualization, and basically we uh, are able now to click in the console and create a virtual machine where we are gonna put that application that we have, or basically deploy that application what we have. And yeah, from there we have seen that basically having that much virtual machines, and hosting, as your application grows, hosting that much virtual machine is beginning to be very complex. So the people came up with the infrastructure as a code. So in order to do those things manually, they came up with the way to code that infrastructure. So basically you're coding the infrastructure that you previously back in time really had physically to provision in order to have that. So that's going to be an essence. And basically infrastructure as a code, as Jenan said, can be treated as a code. So as any other code that you are doing, basically you're able to code it finally, configure it, and then even code it, so yeah.
In my opinion, especially for beginners on AWS, as soon as you start learning about, let's say, EC2 instance, you find out what EC2 instance is, and you set up the first EC2 instance in through the AWS console. You should try to do the same thing using, let's say, CloudFormation, since CloudFormation is AWS native service for infrastructure as a code. That will help you to figure out and to memorize things, because when you are spinning up new EC2 instance, you will go through several steps how to do that. And when you are doing that manually, often you will miss or misclick some of the steps, or you will not pay a lot of attention on some of the properties. But when you are writing that down as an infrastructure as a code, when you are writing that down as a template, you will pay attention on each of the properties which you need to spin up your instance, and that will help you to understand better things which are needed to have your instance up and running.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have some questions regarding this first question? Did we answer it correctly? I mean, not correctly, but did we answer what you were expecting? Do you have some additional questions on top of this one? Okay, let's continue to the other question. It's easier in the console than coding the whole thing, isn't it? So this is one question which appears lots of time. The people are still thinking, why would I code the whole thing when I can just click it through, right? So I if I need an instance, I just go in the console and I click, provision instance, and there you go. I have an instance. So what's the big deal about having infrastructure as a code?
When I started in IT, I was not huge fan of coding at all. So coding at that time, I mean, we cannot say that writing infrastructure as a code templates is a coding at all. But writing a code for me was something which was off. I don't want to do that. I was more like system administrator guy. So, and at that time I was thinking it's easier through the console. And even now, sometimes I find myself doing things through the console because of that UI environment, just to see where do you click. But when I when I catch myself doing stuff like that, immediately I'm back to ID or text editor and putting things into the CloudFormation template, because we are mostly using day-to-day CloudFormation template, because I know that then I can easily share things between the colleagues, between the team, and they also can easily saw what I did, and it's best practice. Basically, best practice in the cloud is to use infrastructure as a code. If you are doing, I saw one interesting tweet a long time ago. If you are doing it through the console, you are doing it wrong. So
yeah. Back in time, in 2016, we had lots of Beanstalk applications. So basically, for somebody who doesn't know what is Beanstalk, basically Beanstalk is a service which provisions load balancer, even database, EC2 instances, at whatever you need to run your application. And you don't need to hassle much with the EC2 instances. It's kind of a managed, half-managed, semi-managed AWS service. So we had lots of Beanstalk instances, and we had a rule back then. everything needs to be done in CloudFormation. And I think most of us at that time that was a big hassle. So we had to have some kind of CloudFormation, but nobody really did those things with CloudFormation. So we are kind of updating that CloudFormation and never execute that CloudFormation ever, So it was in the code. It was basically as a part of the code, but we actually never executed that stack. So it was just staying there, just so that we have. But after some time, you realize that you have multiple environments. Your applications get very complex, and when they start getting very complex, it's very hard to replicate that environment without kind of a similar configuration for all those environments that you would provision. We had a meetup. Johannes Peltopiri from IKEA actually was we were having a meetup with him, and they had a serverless application, so that every commit they had was additional environment. So whenever they commit in Git, they basically do a CI/CD and they provision a new environment every time. So it was fun to hear something like that, but it has a lots of sense, So they have a traceability, so they have a multiple versions. QA can test any version they think is all right. So basically, it was a very interesting approach to me. So if somebody wants to see that a meetup, it's I think seventh meetup, so you can go back on our channel and check it out.
I think also that makes a lot of sense, because, for example, when you have a developer fixing some bug, and when they want to test that, it makes sense to spin up the whole new dev environment just for them to be able to test, and then once when they are done, they confirm that fix is working, the environment is terminated automatically. So
Right.
thinking from the CI/CD perspective makes a lot of sense, and it's quite useful.
Right.
I
Is there
think
any
that we
question?
have one question on our YouTube comments, so if you can put it on the screen.
Right. Sure. How time-consuming is to set up infrastructure as a code compared to old-fashioned provisioning? Is it possible to reuse it, and how? Okay, this is one very nice question. Jenna, would you like to?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, inside AWS CloudFormation service, there is an option to import existing infrastructure into the templates. And then, so if you already have some resources created, you have an option to import them inside the CloudFormation stacks, and then to have templates for that. From my experience, if you have a little bit complicated and complex infrastructure, that will not work as expected. So I would say that the best approach there would be try to look at the current state which you have inside the console, write templates from zero, try to improve things, because for sure there are things which could and should be improved from the current state of your infrastructure, and then try to deploy things piece by piece. As you are deploying new things, then have them in parallel with the current state, and then terminate the things which you provision manually. That is a little bit expensive solution, because at one point in time we will have resources which you provisioned already manually, and the resources from CloudFormation template, but it will ensure that everything works as expected. You will have tested environment, and it's much I think it's more consuming. It's less consuming in comparison when you import things using AWS importer to the CloudFormation service, and then to fix issues and to fix errors. It's easier to start writing infrastructure as a code from zero, and also if you would like to import things through the CloudFormation service, then you have to use CloudFormation templates. You cannot use Terraform. That's also one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice would be try to write things from zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there is one another dimension to this question. She asks how time consuming is a setup infrastructure compared to old fashioned provisioning. I guess by old fashioned you potentially mean over console. Is it possible to reuse it, and how? Do you mean to reuse it like components that you can reuse in multiple environments or in other accounts?
Oh, now when you when you read the question again to me, I figure out that I didn't understand the question in the beginning. I was thinking about reusing existing resources when you have manually provisioned infrastructure to wrote templates for that infrastructure in some automatized way. Uh,
Reuse in other accounts. She says reuse. Okay,
and
so
oh,
yes,
understood.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
We
When
have
you can. Yeah. Sorry, Jalen, you
uh,
go.
yeah. So a few days ago, we had one example like that. When, for example, we had a project where we created MVP project for the client, and it was inside our own AWS account. And when we pitch that project, client says, "Okay, now I would like to proceed further, and I would like to have that under my own AWS account." And now imagine that we clicked everything manually inside our console. It will
Yeah,
require us to spend exact same amount of the time on the client's account. Instead
yeah,
of that, we had CloudFormation templates written down, and we just executed all those templates inside the client's account, and we had that done in like less than an hour. So
absolutely. Okay.
you
Yeah,
can use CloudFormation templates, and it depends on your how specific infrastructure is for your application. But for example, if you have containerized application, containerized solution, you can easily use exact same infrastructure templates inside the multiple accounts for the multiple different
yeah,
applications. You will just need you will have parameterized templates where you will just change uh, values for your parameters depending on Docker Hub registry, let's say, stuff like that. But you can definitely reuse them. That's one
yeah.
of the benefits of
Yeah. Basically, you can
code.
have you can have a component that will be, let's say you would like to have a VPC, you would like to have a web server, you would like to provision a database, you would like to have a different sets of your applications, and you can have that uh, basically put in the cloud formation, and you will have your environment in the cloud formation. So if you would deploy that on your client's application, you would execute all those cloud formation scripts, and you would have them on the account. So you would have exactly the same environment you had created on your own, let's say on your account, at the client side as well. So that's like in a nutshell. Okay, any other questions except Nata?
I don't see any. We can proceed forward with your
Hmm.
questions.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Is infrastructure as a code complex? Is it hard to learn for a developer? I hear um, Okay, I have two questions which are very similar, so I'm gonna go to the second one, because it's they're pretty much the same. I'm a developer. Do I need to care about infrastructure? So basically, it's the same thing. If developers are used on having their environments already set, so they just code the application and they deploy that application, or even more, they pack the application and give it to the sys admin, who later on deploys that on production server. So now, from that background, when developer is coming and he is now coming to the cloud, where you basically have another responsibility, and that is to provision infrastructure which you didn't do before. How complex is that for him to understand, and basically to transfer from a developer who is actually and a developer that was developing a regular application, to something like infrastructure as a code, or the code that does the infrastructure?
Well, a moment ago, you mentioned Elastic Beanstalk environment, which is platform as a service, where AWS is spinning up the whole infrastructure needed for your application. You just say EB deploy, CLI command, and the whole infrastructure is spin up by AWS in the background, which is done through the CloudFormation templates. And to continue on that, from developer perspective, it's a mindset thing. If you try to ask a regular developer to write down infrastructure as a code using YAML or JSON format, that would be too exhausting for them, and I think most of the time they don't want to bother themselves with things like that. But I think last year or year before, AWS introduced CDK environment, which brings infrastructure as a code close to the developer, to the developers, enabling them to write uh, configuration templates through the CDK, using the way how developers are writing the application code. You are probably more familiar with the CDK than I am, but if you are a developer and you are trying to spin up infrastructure as a code for your infrastructure, CDK is the way you should go. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be much closer to. I mean, we'll talk about the tools that we are going to use, but in essence, infrastructure as a code from perspective of cloud formation or AWSM looks more like a configuration. So basically, it's an configurational file for your infrastructure. You declare in that code, which can be JSON or YAML, what would you provision from the services on AWS? So you can provision EC2 instances, you can provision VPC, you can provision security group, you can create subnets. Basically, you're gonna create your networking infrastructure in that from that code. And basically then you're getting your environment to deploy your application. So if you are looking from the perspective of developer, is that some additional burden that you have to do now as you move to cloud, right, from the old way of doing things? Well, I don't see it's a burden. Basically, I think it's a gain, because now you are able to code your infrastructure and set up the environment which will respond to the requests that your application is demanding. So if your application sorry about that, needs to scale, it would be easy for your application to declare auto scaling groups now, and so that your application can scale and sustain the needs. and basically this is I don't believe this is additional burden to developer. I think this is a benefit for developer.
I share your opinion because, especially inside the non-enterprise environments, in small teams where you don't have dedicated infrastructure teams, dedicated ops teams, dedicated network teams, as a developer, you are more involved into the part where you should also care where your application is running, where your code is running, how do you deploy your code. And I mean, it's a little bit old-fashioned mindset. I will fix this bug and I will just push changes to Git and I don't want to think more about it. Now, at this time, developers, in my opinion, should also be aware about the infrastructure where their code is running on.
Absolutely. And even more, if you start developing a cloud native or serverless applications, basically there is no any more strict boundary between infrastructure and your application is part of the infrastructure, so you're developing application that uses managed services or services which are completely managed by AWS, so you don't need to think about how it's going to scale, how much the instances will cost. Basically, it's going to scale on demand. So having that in mind, your application becomes, your architecting your application becomes actually an infrastructure. So you're combining the AWS services, serverless services, and you are actually creating an architecture for your application. And being a serverless developer without knowing how to architect your AWS infrastructure is impossible, pretty much. So if you want to be a serverless developer, you have to do infrastructure, but not in the old way, in the modern way, where you would basically use the serverless services. Yeah. Any questions regarding what we have just mentioned, Seth? Or do you have, Jenna, something more to add?
No, I like to say that as same as security is everyone's job, the same thing is with infrastructure. Personally, I don't like when I hear from developer side, I don't care about infrastructure, I don't care about the servers or anything what's behind.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly. So
that's not the approach with
yeah,
which you like to hear. So I'm much more fan that the same as ops people should be able to at least read and understand the code and be able to debug and troubleshoot things on the same way developers should understood how thing works on the other side, where is their application deployed, what they have, how some of the services works. Basically, that's the reason why we have AWS developer certificates, so that you can learn about services even if you are a developer. It's still
absolutely, absolutely.
you
So
should
you
be
will,
aware.
yeah, you should be aware how some services uh, can be configured, how it responds, what are its limits. So yeah, those things you will learn on those courses. And that's exactly that you can reflect in your cloud formation or any other tool that you might use for creating your infrastructure. Okay, there is another question, which is basically you partially answered it. And how did you start using infrastructure as a code? So
Oh, well, I
what
started
pushed
using.
you to use infrastructure as a code?
I mean, since when I started my certification path in 2013, I heard first time a little bit more about cloud formation, and then I saw what are the benefits of infrastructure as a code, and then started migrating our infrastructure, which we created manually at that time, to the cloud formation templates, and then executing. And also, well, I was tired of repeating exact same steps hundreds of times. So if you in the nature of ops people is if you need to do something twice, next time you will check how you can automatize, because
Right.
if you are doing things manually more than two times, you are doing them wrong. So
Yeah.
as soon
And
as you need to do something twice manually, you should ask yourself, can I automatize this? How I can do that, and which tools can I use?
right.
And first time when I had more than a few instances to spin up, and when I started working on little bit more serious infrastructures, I started looking into infrastructure as a code, and that overlaps with my sysops associate preparation. So that's how I went infrastructure as a code way. And I remember how I started using Terraform. It was quite interesting because I was like, I'm always more fan of the AWS services than third party tools. So if
Mm,
you ask me, would I rather choose CloudFormation than or Terraform, I would say I, I, I would choose CloudFormation. And I
right.
remember we had one project where clients asked us explicitly to use Terraform, and they wanted their environment to be done using Terraform. And I never I never used Terraform before. I knew what it is. I spoke with Anton Babenko multiple times about it. I even watched some of his videos at that time about Terraform, but I didn't have any hands-on experience with Terraform, and then I just had to sit and to learn it. And it took me like 2.5 days to be able to set up the uh, whole infrastructure for that client. It wasn't anything complicated. It was like Elastic Beanstalk environment with FDS, some SQS queues, SNS
Mm,
topics, and stuff like that. But in 2.5 days, I was able to pick up foundations of Terraform, and
yeah.
I found it pretty much useful and quite interesting. So
It is a different, right? It is different than cloud formation. It's yeah. I mean, we will speak about. There is a question about the tools, how many tools, and that's the next one. But yeah, it's different, and we are going to talk about that. So I interrupted you here because we have a next question. But what I wanted to say about doing over infrastructure or over console. Um, as I'm having this lectures regarding the certification for AWS professional, as I have to recertify myself, um, I noticed how difficult is to do things over console. It's extremely difficult, especially, even setting up a VPC is a huge job. Actually, it's a lot of things that you have to have in mind. And I mean, it's almost impossible to do that without drawing that on the paper, and saying what are your subnet, what are your CIDRs, what are your stuff. It's extremely complex, and there is a great chance that on in that way you're gonna miss something. I was trying to configure a transit gateway, and I forgot in those tools. Somebody called me, or something happened. Somebody called me on phone, and I skipped one step, and I continued doing other steps, and I forgot to do a propagation. In order to go back and to see where I actually missed that step, it my lab passed. I didn't finish my lab.
Yeah,
So
understood, and I
you
agree.
see my point here. Basically, it's so difficult because you have a lots of things to configure, and just to configure it on one account is extremely difficult job. Imagine, as most of the companies now are going multi-account, so they are having landing zones, they have business units can have a plethora of accounts, and each of those accounts have to have the same replication of the environment. Imagine if you have to do that by console. It's gonna be, I mean, if you're not paid by, as somebody says, if you're not paid by the hour, you know, then it's not worth it. I mean, if you're
And
paid the hour, then it's another story. You can do it like for a
also
month.
it's quite frustrating because you're to find out who changed something and how was something set up before you made some change. You have to check CloudTrail logs if you have them turned on. You should, if not. But through if you have infrastructure code templates, you can easily go inside the Git history, and you can see what is changed, who changed, why. You can see pull request messages. So everything is
Mhm.
tracked down, and it's much easier to troubleshoot, as you mentioned, and also to follow up on the things.
Absolutely.
Especially if you are if you are if you are playing around inside your own account, then you can do things sometimes manually. But if you are working inside the team, no matter is it startup or enterprise environment, you should think in infrastructure as a code.
Right, right. That's pretty much good point. If you're basically a beginner, you should have you need to have a feeling what you're creating from cloud formation. So it's a basically a good point to do things, to experiment on the console, but that cannot be your production environment. It can be your account where you play around, do things, and learn how the things are connecting to each other and how they're working really, and you will have a good feeling about how the things work from the console. But when it comes to doing something for a specific project or for a specific client, then going over console doesn't have any sense anymore.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And
why? Yeah.
then when I'm working with the AWS beginners and with the people who would like to start with their cloud journey, I often use three steps approach. First, we wrote a diagram using some of the online tools, Lucid Chart or something like
Draw
that.
IO, which is free.
Yes, exactly. And then once when we have a diagram and we visualize
Gonna
what we
put
would
that.
like to create, then we switch to the console, click things to the console so that people are able to see what they are creating. And after that, we are moving to CloudFormation or Terraform templates so that we can see how we can automatize things.
Mhm.
So that's like my uh, three-step approach with the newbies to AWS.
Great. Yeah, that's the way to go. Okay. Sorry about my throat. Hopefully it's not COVID. um, okay, so anybody having a question regarding the what we have just said? Nope. Okay, let's continue to another question, which is the one that you try to answer, and I have stopped you. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Go ahead. I wanted
I
to read it, but
mean,
anyway.
you have so many tools available out there, and which one you will use, it's based on your own preferences. So, in my opinion, if you are working in the company should have like a policy which tool they will use across all the teams inside the company. It should be unified and should be one tool so that you can easily switch people from one project to another, and also that they are all aware of what other people is doing. But when you are picking a tool, you should pick a tool which you like the most. You should check what are the pros and
Mhm.
cons
Right.
between some other tools, but at the end, it's your own choice.
Yeah, but let's talk about few tools that are basically on our heart in some way or another. So I would say we have what we already emphasized few times. So we have a cloud formation.
And
Uh,
Terraform, you are a
we have
specialist
we
at
have
it now.
yeah, true. Uh, so we have Sam, which is an extension of CloudFormation, which we're going to talk about. We have a CDK that we have mentioned also in the previous answer, and we have a Terraform. We have plethora of them, much more than I have put. But the thing is that oh no, oh. Okay. So there should be a space in between. I put the enter thinking that it's gonna go, one below another, but
It's probably Shift plus Enter.
it's yeah, it came out to be like this. Anyway, so you have cloud formation, you have SEM, you have CDK, and you have Terraform, and those are you also have a serverless framework, which is very similar to SEM, but I didn't mention it, but we can talk about that as well. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is cloud formation. Cloud formation is infrastructure as a code. I believe I'm not sure if Terraform is the first one or cloud formation is the first one. Maybe cloud formation is the first one anyway. However, but cloud formation is AWS infrastructure as a code. So everything started from cloud formation, and in the cloud formation you have basically ability to provision infrastructure as a code. So you configure what you're going to provision, pretty much. Right, you configure, as I said, EC2 instances. You provision your VPC, your security groups, or you provision other services like I don't know, ECS, EKS, or even services like Elasticsearch or absolutely whatever. Most of the things are supported in a cloud formation, and there are a few things that are missing to be you're not able to do in cloud formation, but there are very few of them, and so I don't believe it's worth mentioning about that. When it and interesting thing is that both that cloud formation is supported in JSON and YAML, so you can code a cloud formation in YAML or JSON. That's pretty much. Do you have something to add for cloud formation? We're going to show some code as well later on.
Sometimes when I choose Terraform over the CloudFormation is mostly when AWS, for the AWS new services, when they introduce some of the new services, they often doesn't support CloudFormation in the beginning.
Exactly.
And since Terraform, it's HashiCorp product, but they have pretty huge community behind themselves. So community often develop different modules which supporting the latest AWS services, and often
Yeah.
you will find AWS services supported inside Terraform even earlier than in CloudFormation.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That has a lot of lots a lot. It has a lot. It has to do with the APIs. Basically, cloud formation is you basically code cloud formation and you upload cloud formation into the AWS, and basically the stack is created on AWS and you have nothing to do with it. Cloud formation is a closed source and you are basically not being able to do anything in order, let's say, to change how something executes or not. On the opposite, Terraform is HashiCorp, so it's not AWS, it's HashiCorp. It supports multi-cloud ability to code in the multi-cloud, so you can even mix things if you want. And basically, when you execute Terraform, you get you basically execute the Terraform against the engine, and that engine is basically calling in AWS APIs to create or provision the resources for you. So basically, it operates on the plugins which know how to communicate with your cloud formation. Cloud formation. No, with your AWS environment. So that's how it works, and that's the big difference between those two. So if you want to have new things, yes, the Terraform community is huge, and people in Terraform will actually create the plugins which will execute AWS some new AWS services before CloudFormation, because some people in community will create a plugin which will be based on the new APIs, and I think the APIs are the first thing that comes out, right? It goes APIs, then CLI, and then CloudFormation, right? In that order.
yeah,
That's
because
what I heard. It doesn't need to be true, but
I mean, the first thing which they develop, I suppose, is the API because different services are communicating between
absolutely,
themselves via the API. So the
yeah,
API is the first thing which they build, I
yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
And
So yeah,
well, you can even use AWS CLI as a way to write your infrastructure. You can automatize some things to AWS CLI, command line interface.
absolutely,
You have
absolutely,
commands to create EC2 instance. So if you have hundreds of instances to create, you can automatize that even using CLI, combining that with Python, bot framework, or with bash scripting, but everything is easier than doing that manually. And
yeah,
if you are not using infrastructure as a code so far, you should start. I mean, it's a standard, and if you are not using it, you are doing it wrong.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So this is now coming to be interesting. Now, when serverless paradigm appeared, cloud formation was very complex to do serverless, and in order to write serverless application, you had to kill yourself writing the cloud formation code, and it was extremely, it's like a boilerplate code that you have to repeat all the time. I mean, you can save it and reuse it into another application, that's fine, but still there is a massive amount of lines that you have to write in order to create a serverless application. And the people in AWS thought, okay, this is awful for people doing serverless, and we are pushing serverless architecture so much, we have to have appropriate tool. And that tool came to be SAM. So serverless application model, right? Model, I think. Never mind. So SAM. So serverless application model is an abstraction of cloud formation. So what's what that means? Basically, it means that SAM is in essence cloud formation, which is have ability to shorten coding for some serverless services. So instead of writing a lots of code in cloud formation, in SAM you're writing much less, and what happens in under the scene is basically your SAM is converted into cloud formation, and as cloud formation it is being created, stack has been created. So in essence that is cloud formation, but it is from your perspective as a developer much simplified. And we're gonna compare those things in a SAM and AWS. I'm gonna put few examples, and we're gonna go through them and explain what's the important things in all of them. And that's a benefit of using SAM comparing to cloud formation when doing serverless applications. The one thing, Jenna, which I'm not really sure why it didn't happen, is that Fargate is never introduced into SAM. You know, so
Well,
they just kind of that kind of slipped. It's not serverless. You know, I mean it
well,
is. They are
it's
advertising
serverless
Fargate as
service,
a serverless.
but without support from SAM. Well,
Okay.
you can always send an email to the Fargate team and ask about it.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be introduced after the or during the event, because they probably keep something. I mean, they
Yeah.
will
Behind the
introduce
scene.
a lot of new features each year during the event. AWS introduce a lot of new features to existing services, and they
I
also
think
introduce completely new services, so we can expect something there.
you know, I'm not sure actually. They had quite some time to do that, but we'll see. You know, we'll see what will come up on reinvent. But I think it's like they're more seeing um, Lambda as a serverless thing comparing to ECS or AKS to be supported in SAM. So, you know, they immediately introduced container support for Lambda, but they never went towards Fargate, you know. So I think it's a kind of a different crowd, you know, they don't mix with each other, you know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
makes sense. Makes sense. And
Yeah.
also, I think that need for it was not so huge from the client side, because how AWS introduce new feature is often that they are asked from the clients and from the people who are utilizing those services on a high scale. When they are asking for the features, then those features are added. But
Yeah.
not sure to be honest why it's not, why they
Yeah.
don't support it.
Right. Right. Okay. We need to consider time as well. We have 20 minutes more. I mean, we can continue, but still. Okay. CDK. CDK is a new thing, new brother to CloudFormation and SAM. And what you can do is CDK is everything you can do in CloudFormation, but with a code. Now you can use Java, Python, TypeScript, JavaScript. Is there anything else? Python. Did I say Python? Never mind. Even Python. So you can use all those languages in order to code your infrastructure, which is which Jenan mentioned before. If you're a developer, now you can use CDK and you can actually code, really literally code the infrastructure. Uh, and what is even more interesting is that you can now, what Nat asked, can you reuse? Well, now you have really ability to reuse, because you can create components out of your infrastructure, and as such you can combine them in different kind of CDK. Can I call it application? CDK application? Yeah, why not? It's you're coding it, like a like an application. So yeah, um, you are really having now ability to act as a developer on your environment. And what's even interesting, you can introduce your libraries that you used before. You can spin up infrastructure by integrating some third-party service which will notify you, hey, now is the right time to fire this stack. So basically, it really gives you ability to have your infrastructure even to the bigger level than having it in a cloud formation and SAM. From cloud formation and SAM, you're having this feeling that it's still configuration. Now with CDK, you're really seeing that as a part of your application, literally. So it's basically as much imagination you have, cloud formation, sorry, CDK will support that. Jen, do you agree?
Yes, what I wanted to add is that me
Hmm.
personally, I didn't use CDK.
Hmm.
Uh, I just tested out when they introduced it, and since I didn't have so much time to test it and to work with it in production, I have on my to-do list in the next two
Mm.
or 3 months to try it more, and how I will learn more about CDK is using a book from a fellow AWS hero, uh, which is called the CDK book.
Mm.
So you can share this link on YouTube comments. And if you are interested into the learning more about
Can
the
you do
CD,
that as well? Uh, are you
um,
able to do that?
let me just sign in 1 second.
I have few links from you that I haven't shared.
I was thinking on this the cdkbook.com. Okay,
All right.
let me see.
Okay. The CDK book.
Yes. So if you would like to learn more about the CDK and you are a developer, this is right thing for you.
Mm. Amazing. Amazing. Okay, there is one more thing that is left to be discussed here, and that's Terraform. I mean, we did mention Terraform. We compare it to cloud formation, but what actually Terraform is? Sorry, about the CDK. One more thing that I forgot to mention. CDK, I said previously that CDK is a brother to cloud formation and SAM. Yes, it's a brother, because even it's a code, it translates into cloud formation. At the end, it again ends up as a cloud formation. But the translation, you can even, when you do a CDK, you can even do a translation and see what happens in the background, and you'll see one huge cloud formation that you would need a lots of time to code. So CDK really enhances ability to shorten the time to produce the infrastructure as a code. Now we can go to Terraform. Okay, so Terraform. Terraform is a different animal than those few things, but it's kind of a halfway between cloud formation, which has a feeling of of uh, um, configuration, uh, and the CDK, which is really a programming language. You can use your programming language that you know the best. Now this is having its own syntax, and it's between those two. You can do loops, you can do conditions, so it's basically similar, but not there yet. I mean, it's not gonna be. They have different logic, and they have their own syntax, but it's not really a programming language. It's still a kind of configuration with few abilities plus, right? What do you think?
That's true, but what I found out is that developers they like Terraform more than CloudFormation template because it gives them opportunity to use some things. You don't need to you don't need to duplicate things when you're
Right.
writing
Yeah.
templates. You can introduce modules and then you can
Right.
use those modules across your infrastructure. For
Right.
example, if you need VPC, you have a VPC module, and then you can call that module from other parts of your infrastructure, and then use it. And I think that Terraform I cannot say which of the tools is better.
Mm,
It depends on the scenario and it depends on your needs, what you need for that
right.
specific scenario. But for sure, that Terraform is a tool worth to check and worth to learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's actually now I'm what you just said. I'm doing pretty much that. I'm creating a modules which then rest of the company can reuse into their over infrastructure. So kind of trying to identify common patterns that are repeatable, that are kind of known as well architecture or best practices, and letting the rest of the company reuse them into the other, I mean, for their needs, into the other projects. So that's exactly what you're saying. Basically creating a modules which can be reused later. So that's
And
in essence that.
yes, and I mean, one of the benefits of the Terraform is that you can use Terraform for also other cloud providers. Not it's not only
Absolutely.
for AWS, and I will I will need to say that word. If you are going multi-cloud, then Terraform is also a way to go.
Yeah, I I can't agree completely, and I'm arguing about that a lot. It's like Terraform. Yeah, you can go multi-cloud. Yeah, potentially yes, but the syntax and the logic, the syntax is the same, but everything else is different. So every cloud provider has a different logic how you're going to provision their services. So you cannot say, okay, VPC, you create a VPC and then you push that VPC to AWS and
GCP,
Azure or GCP. No, it's not
yes,
going to work like that.
exactly.
You have
But
to type it for GCP and type it for Azure. That's a big,
yes,
but the good thing there is that you can actually mix them. You can partially provision AWS resources and Azure resources,
and
and
you can put everything inside the same repo. You
yeah,
can have everything on
yeah,
one place and written inside the same language using the same practice
yeah,
and same approach to your team. So
yeah.
you have unified approach no matter which cloud platform you are using.
Do you know what is also interesting? Cloud formation has to be open source, right? You have to code the cloud formation, and you want to share it with somebody. You have to give him the right the cloud formation source file, right? But here you can really execute the infrastructure, and he's not able to see what happened. If you're
Yes,
going if you're going to cloud formation, you go to a stack and you go to template and you see the template, right? Here
that's
you don't see the template.
that's one of the reasons
It's
why I
closed
like.
source.
That's one of the reasons why I like more CloudFormation template because you can go inside the console, click on the tab resources and see which
Absolutely.
resources you actually created. And you can have them on a single click away from you which is
Right.
which is not the case with the Terraform. But Terraform
Yeah.
has his own benefits, and
Absolutely.
you should consider it for sure.
Somebody will consider this as a benefit, because he doesn't want to, let's say, if you execute that on to the client can take out, copy paste that template and execute somewhere else on his behalf. But with this approach, he cannot. So if that's a benefit for something, there you go. You can use Terraform instead. Okay, good. So there is not much time left, and we have lots of questions. I don't know if we should go, exploring the code. I would like more to go over a few topics, and I'm gonna share the links that I found out for templates. For example codes, so you can look it by yourself and ask questions later. I would rather go quickly through the rest of the questions. Jenna, do you agree?
Yes, please.
Okay, quick one. Can I version my infrastructure code? You
Yes.
mentioned that previously at the beginning, but you can go once more, right? It's not.
Well, it's a practice to put your templates, no matter which tool you are using, but you will put them inside some versioning system,
Mm.
preferably Git from my
It's still
side.
a code, right?
Yes, and then you can have different versions there. So it's the
Absolutely.
way. One of the main reasons why we are using infrastructure as a code is to versioning. Is because of the versioning.
Right. Exactly. That's a very good point. Basically, uh, now as infrastructure is a code, you have ability to version your code, and as it is version, you can trace back in history to see where did you actually made mistake, in a way. And uh, that's very good point, because now you are actually having traceability of your infrastructure, which over console you didn't have. The only thing you have, you may trace from the console, what somebody did when, but that's not gonna help you much, except to blame somebody. Anyway, let's go to another question. If somebody has a question, please write them in the comments, and we'll come back at the end. If we will not have a time, but then anyway. What about CI/CD?
A few
How
days
do you like
ago,
that?
a few days ago when we spoke about the meetup, and you
Right.
asked me what are you doing now, and I told you that I'm troubleshooting one of the CI/CD pipelines, and
Okay.
that pipeline was created basically through three steps. One of the steps was to provision a custom AMI using Packer. Second step was to spin up that custom AMI using CloudFormation template. And third
Right.
step was the actual application deployment. It was a legacy CI/CD pipeline, but it's an example how you can use CloudFormation templates or any other infrastructure as a code templates inside your CI/CD pipelines. And also, you mentioned from your seventh meetup, sorry about that. You mentioned that there are scenarios where people are spinning up completely new dev environment for each new pull request merge. So to
Yeah.
deploy changes inside the isolated dev environments, and basically once when that change is tested and verified, the
Absolutely.
environment is terminated. So you can use and you can use infrastructure as a code inside the CI/CD, and it's one of the scenarios where well where you have a lot of benefits from infrastructure as a code.
Mm, right. Yeah. This is basically the now you're able to do a CI/CD. Um, Even with the infrastructure, and that is a great benefit of having infrastructure as a code. Okay, maybe it's worth mentioning which are the tools for in AWS for having CI/CD.
Well, you have you have several developer tools, code pipeline, code build, which you can use for CI/CD. But I'm not sure. Can you integrate your confirmation templates inside the CI/CD pipelines? Let's say using code build or code deploy. What I found out and what I personally often use is, let's say, from the GitHub Actions to integrate your CloudFormation templates inside GitHub Actions, and then from the GitHub Actions to spin up your infrastructure from Jenkins, from
Yeah.
Bitbucket pipelines. But if you
And to
want,
be honest, everybody is using in that way.
yeah,
From
so
that way.
I never think about it before, but it would be interesting to be able to integrate, let's say, CloudFormation templates inside the DevOps tools, native AWS DevOps tools, and then
Mhm.
spin up your infrastructure. Let's say
Yeah.
if you have your CloudFormation template
Yeah.
on GitHub to connect that to one of the AWS services and then to deploy your
Mm.
infrastructure.
Right. Right. Okay. Good. Thank you. Again, if you have a questions, you write them in the comments. Let's go to another question. Sorry, I'm speeding this up, but we have few more and few very interesting, and I would like to come to those. So we are speeding up a little bit. I have run my stack, but then changed few things from the console. What should I do? This is interesting, very interesting. Lots of times it happens that you spin up over CloudFormation, but then change few things manually, and yeah, what shall I do then?
First, you should have a rule. If you are doing things through the infrastructure as a code, then do not touch anything manual. Even a
Exactly.
minor change requires updating your templates. But
Absolutely.
if you even do that, then you can use AWS feature called CloudFormation Stack Drift, where you will identify changes between the current state and your template, and then you can update your template based on the current state of the infrastructure. And those differences are shown inside the AWS console or the terminal if you are using AWS CLI. But the feature which you can use is called AWS Drift.
But this is very interesting. This is the point where Terraform actually shined a lot comparing, and it still shines comparing the cloud formation. Those drifts, when Terraform basically, when you create a plan, Terraform, that's the action before actually deploying that infrastructure. You do a plan, and that plan is getting what is currently existing from your infrastructure in the cloud, comparing to from with the changes that you want to do, and that is presented in that plan. And basically, you will that plan will be compared to the actual state. So kind of that drift is already built up in Terraform. It's the way how it works. While in CloudFormation didn't work like that. But Terraform has additional problems with that. But we're going to talk about that. I think there is something regarding that in the questions. Anyway, so this is the difference. Now, CloudFormation, I guess by seeing Terraform added that drift, and now you're able to do that in CloudFormation. I didn't use that still because I'm following that rule. If you're doing something with CloudFormation, then do it all the way with CloudFormation. Don't do few things over CloudFormation and then few things over console. You're gonna make a mess. And even though now you have a drift, don't rely on that. I don't know how good that is. Might be good, might be not. I don't know. But when you're doing things from the code, do them all the way to the code. If something doesn't work, try again and learn CloudFormation. Okay, let's go to another one. Okay, this is one a good question. I have some secret values in the template. Do I need to commit that as well? You know,
Well, you should consider using AWS Secrets Manager, where you
okay,
can store all of your secrets and then use them from the CloudFormation template. But it's a big no. Answer is a big no.
no,
Never upload, never push your secrets, credentials, AWS keys, secret access keys to Git or
never.
anywhere else. Do not make them public.
Yeah, don't make them public, and not even your account number. That's considered secret as well.
Yes.
So put them in parameters, and even better, put them as a value in a secrets manager, as a key from the secrets manager. So you reference a key of secrets manager in your parameter, and you will be you'll be basically good. You will be secure that those things will not get into the somebody's hands that could do something malicious. But even better now, it comes even when you have this multi-account system, where you have one account which serves just as a security account, where you store all your security stuff, and just a few members of the team have ability to access that account. So the secret manager stays there, and this guy and when the stack is executed, there is no trace of the secret, so that's a good thing, good point as well. But when it comes to the Terraform, now there is a issue. In Terraform, you basically have even if you reference this, let's say in Terraform, you use the secrets from the secret manager, the key from the secret manager, you reference that into your resource. But then when you create a plan, or basically when it is converted into the plain text. This depends from the API, that they're using. If API uses, if you can use the secret key in your resource, then it's fine. It's going to be converted on the on the AWS. But in case, sorry, but in case it's if you let's say pull it out, I mean if the Terraform pulls it out and then reference that in the plan, then that plan will be plain text, and your secret will be visible. So again, this is something that you need to consider when using Terraform. Okay. Okay, let me click. Do I need to test infrastructure?
For sure. I mean, there is a paradigm in software development that you should write test before you write application, the actual application code. There are quite few tools, at least for the CloudFormation templates, which you can use to test your infrastructure as a code. And that's also one of the benefits why we are using infrastructures as a code at all. We can have a versioning, which we mentioned before, and we can test our templates and our infrastructure even before we execute inside our environment. So that's also one of the benefits, and you should need to use tests for your infrastructure, for sure.
Right. Yeah. This is a perfect. Do you know? Okay, there is another question. How can I test infrastructure? So, do you recommend some tools that
For
can
the
be used?
CloudFormation template, I think there is a tool called CF Lint, I think. I
Yes.
cannot
Yes,
remember
I
from
have write
top of
that
my
down
head.
here. Okay, yes, CFLint. I think you can install it as a plugin in Visual Studio, and CFN-NAG. They're linter tools, kind of linter tools, which just go through your code and find things like, SSH open to everybody, those kinds of things. So it's a linter way of doing things. So basically, it checks the quality of your code. Then there is a Tasket. I haven't used that, but Tasket is something like it executes your infrastructures in few regions, and basically it comes back with answer: did it succeed or not? So,
And also, there are several AWS CLI commands which can be used to verify your CloudFormation templates. So that also should be considered when we are
right,
talking about
right,
testing
yeah.
CloudFormation infrastructure
Yeah,
templates.
when it comes to Terraform, there is a Terra test and TFLint. So basically, Terra test is more like unit testing, where you can bring up and tear down your resource and then test it and tear down. So basically. It's if somebody is from working with Java, it's like a JUnit test for your infrastructure. TFLint is the same thing, but for Terraform, as CFNAG and CFN-Lint for CloudFormation. And then there is another thing, which is called Open Policy Agent. That's interesting things. Basically, that's a tool which translates, which can read your cloud formation, where you can set the rules. They have a special syntax called Rego. And there is one tool, an additional tool, which is called Regula. And Regula is basically having some rules that's going to go through your Terraform file and go through your Terraform plan even, and look for some issues in the plan as well. So you don't, it's not just what you have written, but what is actual outcome as well in the plan. Also, there is a local stack. I don't know if you tried, Jenan.
No, I mean,
Yeah, local stack is something interesting. It's basically AWS APIs implemented as a mockup. So you can execute CloudFormation or you can execute Terraform, and it basically works. But there is an issue. There is a catch. They're not updating their APIs as quickly as AWS publishes them. But it's I guess tremendous effort from the guys to implement that. So
I suppose you can contribute to it. So feel free to open pull request.
Uh, okay, maybe I'm gonna think about it. But thumbs up for the guys. I don't know how AWS didn't bought them already, didn't buy them. So
Well, probably they will.
okay, I know you have meeting in 5 minutes, so we have
And
to.
also, I didn't pack myself, so
Uh, so yeah, I'm sorry I kept you 10 minutes more.
no problem.
But this was one very good session, I think, and we'll see what the crowd says.
I hope that people
And we
find it
have thank
useful.
you from Nata. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Jenon, very much for being the guest today. It was one great discussion, and I hope we're going to have you in some of the next meetings. And yeah,
Thank you, Manny, for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure to discuss with you. And I hope also that people who watched us find this meetup useful. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to ping us, and we will be more than happy to get back to you with answers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So you can contact us. I'm gonna be on this chat few more minutes. So if you have some questions, please post them here. I'm gonna check them out. Otherwise, bye bye and see you in next meetings. I'm meetups. I hope we're gonna have them more often than previous one. I mean, it was like 6 months or more. Okay, bye bye. See you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.